All right. Well, welcome to another Bay Area Trails Confidential. This is our 29th show, and I'm really pleased this is going to be a really special one because it's all about Berkeley. So looking forward to talking to you about some really cool places to visit there. But first, I should say hi to my co-hosts, Lee Huo and Marie Sales. How are you both doing tonight?
Doing great, Rodney.
Thanks,
Good to have
Rodney.
you.
Yep.
And then we've got the poll going, and I'll give you guys just a few more seconds to complete the poll, and then we'll share the results. I want to apologize to our special guests, Janet Byron and Robert Johnson. We are not, for some reason, we're not allowed to participate in the poll. So I'm sorry you guys are disenfranchised, but let me share the results with you. We've got folks from all over the Bay Area. So kind of a whole bunch of people in San Francisco, but of course, Contra Costa and Alameda County, very close to Berkeley, are represented. And I asked you guys about some places in Berkeley that you might know about. And one I'm really thrilled to talk about is the Berkeley Fish House. So we will definitely touch on that tonight. It's a really interesting, special place. And the rock parks, those seem very popular. So lots of good stuff. It seems like a lot of you have experience with Berkeley, but I think you're going to get to know the place in a new way with this show and with this book, Berkeley Walks, that we're really excited about. So let me stop sharing the poll. And I do want to mention that we are hosted by City Guides. Am I not showing my slides? I'm not showing my slides, so let me do that real quick. That's what I want to do. All right, we are hosted by City Guides, and I did neglect. This is so Marie Sales and Lee Huo. Sorry, Lee, I left you off the slide, but Lee Huo of the Bay Trail is with us tonight. And we are joined by Janet Byron and Robert Johnson. I'll tell you more about them in a second. As I said, we are hosted by City Guides. And I do have show notes for this episode, links to a lot of the things we'll be talking about at this webpage. And when I get a second, I'll go ahead and put that in the chat. Do want to, of course, always mention that we're talking about places in the Bay Area, and this is the unceded land of various Native American groups who lived here for many generations. And that many people from Native American groups continue to live in the Bay Area today. And we start by acknowledging and honoring them and their ancestors. Here's the agenda that we're going to talk about tonight. So we've got some exciting news and trail updates relating to a Ridge Trail event coming up at the end of this month. We will be talking to Bob and Janet about this great book, Berkeley Walks. We will be talking about the Berkeley Path Wanderers, a fantastic advocacy group in Berkeley. I've had a lot of really good, they've helped me in a lot of ways, and they're very important to maintaining the walking paths in Berkeley. Then we will have a contest, and you guys will have a chance to win either the Bay Trail map cards or the Ridge Trail guide. That'll be your choice. So Janet and Bob, welcome to Bay Area Trails Confidential. Really thrilled to have both of you. I want to say this.
Hello.
Janet and Bob, say hi.
Hi, Rodney. We're really happy to be here.
So this all came about on Bike to Anywhere Day in May. Janet was staffing the station over by El Cerrito Plaza, and we started talking. And then you mentioned your book. You mentioned the Path Wanderers, which you're president of, and I'm just very enthusiastic about. And we talked about having you come on the show and talk about this book. And I'm so glad this has come to fruition tonight. So we will be getting that. Here's pictures of Bob and Janet. And you guys both wear two hats. You're the authors of this book, but you're also, Bob's on the board of the Berkeley Path Wanderers, and Janet, you're the president. Trail updates. So Marie, let's talk about the East Bay Hills hike and ride coming up at the end of this month. So what do we need to know about this, Marie?
Well, it is the 21st year that this has been hosted, and it is a
it is an event that's organized by a number of different partners. So Ridge Trail is one of those key partners, but as well as VOCAL, the Volunteers of Northern California. It's a all volunteer group that does trail restoration and work all around the region. We also have the horse associations, Metropolitan Horse Association and Tilden, and I'm not going to get the rest of it right, but the Tilden Horsemen's Association, I believe. And so together we have hosted this hike, and it has been a multi-day. It's up to 5 days. You can choose kind of which days you want to participate in, and it's hiking and riding together. So it's a really beautiful event. One of my favorite things to do is go visit the horses at night when they're kind of all bedding down. But the hikers hike these great point-to-point trails, and the equestrians come on board, and they're on the trails alongside with us. And then we all camp together and eat together. It's a fully supported event. So we coordinate rides. If you want to just drop your car off, you hike from point to point, and we can bring your gear, or we can shuttle back and forth. The meals are fabulous. The community is fabulous. Rodney and Sarah joined us last year, and that's where we decided as the Ridge Trail to adopt Rodney. And so it's really great time to meet other trail enthusiasts, get out on the trails. And this year we have a special feature because a few of the trails on the East Bay parks are closed due to a landslide. We're diverting the last 2 days to Mount Diablo. And so we have an opportunity to stay at a beautiful facility there and camp. And it actually has a swimming pool and an indoor kitchen. So it's a fundraiser. It costs approximately $105 a day to sign up. And we're also having an auction that is going to be launching next week that we'll make available. I actually might be able to preview the auction tonight for you. So come join us, have fun, and do good things for trails.
Great, thanks, Marie. And these are the showers, so you get warm showers every night, and really good food. The food is amazing. All these volunteers make the food, and and then they move your gear from point to point. So we call it slack packing. Kind of a great way to be camping right above the Bay Area. In fact, last year when I did it, I wanted to go to this gallery opening in the Mission that happened to occur in the middle of the whole event. And I just hiked out of our camp, got an AC Transit bus, went to BART, took BART to the Mission District, and then came back to the campsite that night. So that was really fun. And you meet a lot of great people. So highly recommend this event. It just so happens that Bob Johnson, who's here to talk to us about his Berkeley Walks book, was one of the hike leaders last year in Tilden Park. And this is actually, this picture, this is Charlie Bowen, who is on both the Berkeley Path Wanderers board and the Ridge Trail board. And she was a past president of the Berkeley Path Wanderers. So Charlie's kind of everywhere. You'll see her in some of the pictures later on the show. There she is again. So thank you for that, Marie. Let me just go back real quick and show you guys that those are the maps, but here's how you you would register. And it was also on my web page, which I'm going to go ahead and put the URL for this in. You guys can hear how loud I type. So if you click on that, that should take you to my web page, which will have links to that to register, but it will also actually have links to must have accidentally muted myself. All right, hold on. So Berkeley Walks. We are going to be talking about this fabulous book that it's a new edition. Janet and Bob Johnson, you guys put this thing out in I think first it's 2015. When was the first edition published?
The first edition was 2015. And then we did a second edition in 2018 that had a few more walks, 3 more walks. And this new edition is published by Heyday Books. So we have a new publisher, and it's extensively revised and updated. It just
Yeah.
came out a few months ago.
So how did this project come about? Like, did you know each other before doing this? And what made you guys a good team for working on this?
Bob, do you want to go first, or you want me to?
Bob, you're muted, so go ahead and unmute.
Uh-oh. Bob, you're on mute.
Yeah, Bob, we need you to unmute.
Oh, I thought I did earlier.
There you go.
Okay, all right, sorry. We were both leading walking tours from the 90s, and particularly we were both leading walking tours for Greenbelt Lions, where I was actually on the board for 30 years there. But so we started leading walks together, and particularly some of them were in Berkeley, and I came up with the idea of, hey, why don't we make a book to share this with other people? Why don't we make a book of self-guided walks? And Janet foolishly said she'd like to be part of it, not knowing how much work it was going to be. So we found a publisher, and the rest is kind of history.
And how does it break down? Like, how do you divvy up the research and the writing? What are your areas of specialization?
So Bob really did the whole kind of the structure of the walks. I mean, he mapped out virtually all the walks. I did a few of them. And we worked together on sort of what should be in the walks. And I'm an editor by trade, a writer and editor by trade. So I edited everything and did all did the fact checking. But Bob really took the lead on putting the walks together.
But some of the most unique walks were Janet's idea.
And I'm just going to chime in with a little editorial comment, which is, there are a lot of guidebooks out there. This to me is one of the best I've ever encountered. I thought I loved reading it. I loved walking around Berkeley, and it just revealed all kinds of things, like places I'd seen so many times. Like, this is actually a perfect example. This is on Milvia, and this is a house I've been by many times. And you guys, you guys have all these great facts that you share about these places. So you really deepen my appreciation for Berkeley.
Well, thanks. I mean, the book it's self-guided walking tours, and every walk is a kind of a deep dive into a particular neighborhood. So it includes architecture, and Bob is a real fan of architecture. And then it includes points of interest like homes of famous people or other interesting things, street trees and parks, paths. So really like taking you through an area and just making people more aware of all the interesting things that are there.
Yeah, you mentioned famous people. I just went today by the house of Pauline Kael, the great New Yorker film critic who I loved before I even moved to California. And so it's just like now I'm never going to be able to go by that street without thinking that wonderful fact. One of the things about Berkeley that I don't know, people who live in other places might not understand this, but it has this incredible diversity of architectural styles. Bob, since you obviously know a lot and love architecture, what do you think of like the melding together all these different styles of architecture?
Well, Berkeley was very fortunate to have, maybe it's partly because of the university, but it wasn't just that, very fortunate to have a number of very talented architects here, particularly from, let's say, the 1890s through the 1920s and 30s. Compared to so many places, even like many parts of San Francisco, much of Berkeley, you go down a particular street in a particular neighborhood, and you find all the different styles and types of houses. And that's one of the things I think makes Berkeley so fascinating architecturally. And a lot of those, they're not all designed by big name architects, but there's a lot of fascinating architecture. And it's something that I think we have in the book in the back. There's a section where with pictures telling you about the different styles of architecture. And so I think it's a great learning experience, that you can go around with a book and find out, what's this kind of Victorian, what's a craftsman house, and what's a colonial revival, and so on.
Yeah, I really like that section. And there's a lot of different styles in there, like, what is it, like 15 or some large number. And then the diversity of architecture isn't just true for the town, it's also true for the campus.
Mhm.
In fact, we were just looking, I'll go back to it, like this log cabin on the campus. It's called, I think, the senior club,
Senior hall, I think.
senior hall.
Senior men's hall, something.
Yeah, it was designed by John Galen Howard, who was the campus architect. So he designed like the stadium and the Greek theater, I think, and
Library.
the libraries. But he also designed this log cabin that's kind of tucked away behind the faculty glade. And if you back up, there was a picture of a building on campus that Julia Morgan designed. Where is that? It was, no,
Oh.
Is it?
no, forward. I know I saw it. It was the mining building.
Oh, she didn't
the
design
mining.
it. She helped.
That one, go
Yeah.
back. It was, yeah,
Oh, that's the mining building. Yeah,
that's
I
the
know.
mining building. She
Well,
was,
she didn't design it. She helped John Galen Howard, his assistant to him, but it was John Galen
Yeah.
Howard.
In that building, I think that's just one of the architectural gems
Yeah,
of California.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
And
It's
it's
one of the
we don't really do justice to it by showing it from the outside. You really got to go in.
yeah. The
You
lobby is
appreciate it.
amazing.
it's spectacular. Even if you just peek in the windows, which is kind of what you mostly can do when it's not open very often.
But I think it's open
Yeah.
weekdays during the school year.
Yeah, I've had good luck getting in there.
Mhm.
And I think that's another aspect of Berkeley that people may not realize is the university, like most of the buildings, you can go into them. And there's, like, I know in the library, there's certain places where you do not want to be talking at all. So there's certain standards of behavior they may expect from you, but you can go in and you can walk around. I went into the life sciences building, which is almost like a museum. I found there's a microscope collection that has microscopes going back to, I think, like the 17 or 1800s, your book really inspired me to have a wonderful day exploring UC Berkeley in ways I hadn't.
Plus, there's the dinosaur skeletons there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that enormous one that really stands out.
Did you go up the Campanile?
I have never
Were you
been
able
to
to get-
Campanile.
Yeah. Do you know that you probably read that the Campanile has a lot of the bones from the La Brea tar pits are stored there
Really?
in the
Yeah,
Campanile.
you can't see
Yeah.
them, but they're there.
You
Oh,
just-
they're there. Yeah, most
Tons
of
and tons
that
of-
tower is used as storage. And
Yeah.
fun fact about the Campanile, and it's got a spectacular view from the top. It's a lot of fun. Real cheap thrill.
Yeah,
Berkeley.
and I've been on the UC Berkeley. I've lived in the Bay Area since 1986, so I've been on in Berkeley and on the campus many, many times. But you revealed aspects of it I just hadn't really known. Like here we have, this is Strawberry Creek going through the campus. I didn't realize that the reason they put UC Berkeley campus where it is was because of Strawberry Creek. And Bob, you told me like that this was their source of drinking water.
But yeah, I mean, you didn't have any East Bay mud in those days. So initially, you got the water out of Strawberry Creek.
So let's talk about the rock parks, because these are streets that are very close to where I live. I live on the Calusa Circle. So I know all these streets, I've been on them, and yet you still revealed aspects of these streets that were unknown to me.
Yeah.
And I think you both have said this is one of your favorite walks. So tell us about what's the attraction of the Rock Parks walk?
Can I go first, Bob?
Go ahead.
So this is my absolute favorite walk, just for this reason that there's not only are there 7 rock parks, which are parks where basically the developers couldn't build because there's a big rock, so they ceded it back to the city as public parks. But there's also all these houses that are built over rocks. The foundation includes a big piece of and it's all volcanic rock. Like this one. Yeah, there's the one with the deck built on the rock. There's people who have like a huge rock in their front yard. And it's just really interesting. And they're beautiful neighborhoods to walk through. It's also kind of it's a nice challenge, this walk, because it goes from the top of Solano all the way basically to the top of the hills. And it takes some paths as well.
Yeah, Bob, do you want to add to that?
Well, this picture here these are mortar holes. So acorns, of course, were a major food source for the Native Americans here, and they would grind them up. Acorns had to be washed thoroughly to get rid of the tannins. But these mortar holes, which of course gradually got deeper as they used them more and more. And particularly, there's a number of easily available in Mortar Rock Park. But they use one stone in the holes to grind up acorns. They ate some other tree nuts, but acorns were a major staple.
Yeah, and so
yeah, and here, like this tree is growing virtually out of the top of, out of part of the rock. I don't know how the trees get there. It's a big tree too. It's a deodar cedar, I think. And I don't know how the roots manage, but they're quite.
Like one of the things you do is you really address all the different interesting aspects of these neighborhoods. So you talk about the trees, you talk about the the geological formations and the architectural style, and even some of the landscaping choices neighbors have made. So,
yeah, people have interesting gardens. And
the fact that this park, Cragmont Rock Park and Indian Rock, is where modern rock climbing began, with Dick Leonard, David Brower, the famous environmentalist, and several other people who had formed a club, and they developed the kind of modern rock climbing techniques that they then went on from there to Yosemite and climbing there. So that's really, modern rock climbing really started in Berkeley, and they're still popular. It's still popular for rock climbing.
I didn't know that. So it's just, I feel like everyone in Berkeley should read this book. But let me ask you, like, what would be the case we should make to people who don't live in Berkeley, don't live maybe even in the East Bay, to come visit Berkeley and do these walks? What is what's special about Berkeley?
Berkeley is it's a great walking city. I mean, people here just love to walk, and we do have all these unique neighborhoods. It's a city of neighborhoods, and there's historic homes. There's just a lot of history. There's some fun things like the home where Patty Hearst was kidnapped, or the home where the Unabomber lived. And so, I mean, we've done these 21 walks in the book, and Bob has posted additional walks, which basically cover every corner of Berkeley. And really anywhere you go, it's a great place to walk. And people love walking.
So this website, berkeleywalks.com, it includes information about where to buy the book and things like that, but it also has these other additional walks. I want to say I especially appreciate that you have some walks in Kensington, where I live, in El Cerrito.
Mm-hmm.
So bravo for doing that.
Albany. We're spreading further out from Berkeley. But Berkeley ranks, one of the reasons to come to Berkeley ranks very high on the walkability scale. Mm-hmm. It's a very walkable city. There's no really high speed roads except kind of like the edge of the city, the freeway out at the edge of the western edge of the city. So it's not to say that traffic accidents don't happen. People have to be careful crossing the street, but walkability is very high in Berkeley.
Walkability and bikeability. And we'll get to it at the end of this segment, but we have an idea that Janet and I are cooking up that will involve biking in some of these places.
And also the paths, I should say the paths, which are unique. I mean, there's really nothing like the Berkeley paths anywhere. I mean, there are other places that have paths, but Berkeley has this extensive network. of 140 or so paths.
Kensington has a few good paths too.
Yeah.
I want to stick up for, in fact, let's go to you. This is the map. So not only have you guys have published Berkeley Walks, this is a map that's put out by the Berkeley Path Wanderers Association. We're going to be talking about them next. And this is also a new edition. And here's kind of an idea of what the maps look like. And these are these paths that Janet's talking about. And I really want to tip my hat to you guys for also including the Kensington paths here, which are near and dear to my heart. And we'll be definitely doing a Bay Area Trails confidential program about them sometime soon. Let me ask you guys, like, what hidden aspects of Berkeley history does your book reveal? And like, what is a favorite place that each of you have? So I'll ask Janet first, and then you, Bob, a favorite place that maybe reveals something about Berkeley history.
Let's think. Bob, do you want to go first?
Okay.
Thanks.
I think one of the fascinating things that I found out when we started researching for the book was that in 1908, there was a vote to move the state capital to Berkeley. If you go back to the map, okay, the Path Wanderers map is a good one.
Well then.
Yeah. The civic leaders were all in favor of the idea. The Bay Area voted for it. The rest of the state voted no. So it didn't happen. This capital didn't move from Sacramento to Berkeley. But if you down near the bottom of the map, right about where the area is the Marin Circle. Okay. Well, the Marin Circle, in preparation for that vote, they laid out the city, Marin Avenue, the Alameda, Calusa, Tulare, Los Angeles, Alameda. Where do all these names come from? They're counties and some cities of California. So that's why it got laid out this way. Why does Marin go straight up the hill? Well, it was because there was going to be a cable car. The capital was going to be down near Marin Circle, and there was going to be a cable car up the hill. Well, they didn't win the vote. There was also on the same ballot a proposal to make a 1,000-acre park here called Thousand Oaks area. It got like 63%, but it didn't get 66%. So it all got developed. But it was because of that that attempt to make the state capital here that whole area got laid out the way it is.
Yeah, that is fascinating. That what we live in, those of us who live near here, are kind of the remnants of that plan. And it's just kind of like beautifully laid out. So thanks for that, Bob. Janet, do you have?
I'm ready. So I think what's really interesting is just all the famous and semi-famous people who live or have lived here. I mean, it's just a really fun list. Like Whoopi Goldberg, Michael Pollan, and Michael Lewis live here, and Michael Chabon. Andy Samberg and the Lonely Island are from here. Dorothea Lange lived in Berkeley. We right off of Codornices Park. Thornton Wilder. Bob found some original homes of Thornton Wilder and his family in phone books around here. Jack LaLanne.
It was before phone book, before they had phone books. They were just city street directories.
Jack LaLanne, the tennis star Helen Wills Moody, Wavy Gravy is here. I mentioned the Patty Hearst and the Unabombers. And then there were all these kind of groovy creative people like Ina Coolbrith, the first state poet laureate, and Richard Diebenkorn, the artist. There were all these bohemians hanging around, like around the turn of the century. Bernard Maybeck and Isadora Duncan and inspired dancing at the Temple of the Wings up in the hills. And so I think, like, if I was gonna pick an era that I'd want to go back to, I think I would pick the late 19th century, when Berkeley was basically the campus, and then down to the west at the Bay, it was Ocean View, which was kind of a rough and tumble town, and then the academics were up on the hill, and in between there were farms, gentlemen farms, And there's remnants of those farms and those farmhouses on our walks, particularly in McGee Spalding neighborhood. There's a few kind of gentleman farmer houses. And so I think that would have been a really just interesting time before the earthquake and when development really took off.
So
in
you want to go back
Berkeley.
to late 19th century. What about you, Bob? What year would you?
Well, I'd like to be the part between, I guess, 1906 earthquake and 1930, maybe, when so much of the really interesting architecture was built out in Berkeley. Berkeley, after the earthquake, because so many people moved to the East Bay where they thought it was safer, than San Francisco. And so Berkeley, at the couple decades after the San Francisco earthquake, was one of the fastest growing cities in the country. So a period when a lot of great architecture was going up.
Yeah, they both sound like interesting times. I want to go back to this picture. You guys did an event at the North Berkeley Library where you're going to lead a walking tour, and you got, how many people are in this picture?
Someone counted 180.
I've been a tour guide now for 8 years. I've had some pretty big groups.
Yeah.
I've never had 180 people.
Well, it was written up in Berkeley side, and it was really, honestly, it was chaos. I wouldn't recommend it for a tour leading strategy.
But people seem to have a good time. Despite all the hassle.
They look really happy.
Yeah, it was kind of a really big logistical challenge. I think we should have been ready to like split up into two groups and go in opposite directions or something.
Only 90
like
in
that.
each group.
Yeah, with only 90 in each group. Yeah, I think a lot of people dropped out too, just because it was too out of control.
But it shows the
But it was fun.
enthusiasm for your topic. I do let's talk about this idea. I kind of threw this at you both. We have these walks. Let me go back to the map. There's these 21 walks, and then Bob has even more on the website. But I had this idea that to turn it into like a biking event, we might pick like a few of the greatest hits of various places and just like put together a bike ride where we pick things from each of these. Maybe we want to see a Mabeck house and we want to see a Julia Morgan house. And then let me go find it. I know that this tour has to include this one really, really awesome house in Berkeley, known as the Berkeley Fish House.
Oh,
which
yeah.
is a house that looks like a fish. It is a very strange looking house. I can't even imagine what it's like to live there. Bob, you got to go inside, right?
No, I didn't go inside, but I found on the web, interior pictures, which shows you what it's like inside. Yeah, it's actually a tardigrade, I think is the name. It's some microscopic sea creature, but everybody calls it the fish house.
It's very close to Sam. No, go ahead, Janet.
The tardigrade, it's a marine organism and it's really tough. And so he designed it for his parents, I think. Is that right, Bob?
That's right.
And
Did you like his parents?
Yeah, Berkeley Historical Society had this, they actually had an event with him, this guy recently. He's just a real bohemian kind of Renaissance man. He designs his own clothes and
looks like they're on Star Trek or something.
Yeah. And it does look inside. There's no straight walls, and I don't know how the people in the neighborhood felt about it. Like it's just weird. Yeah.
Well, the other house that's kind of extraordinary for that, I'll call that one out. This is a house with sculptures made from things fished out of the bay. So it was kind of a bay trail connection for
We're on the beaches anyway.
Yeah, so this is a samurai warrior with shields that are made out of discarded, these are disposable cigarette lighters. And there's all this stuff around this house is stuff that's been fished out of the bay that was pollution, basically. So I would propose the fish house and this house on Calusa Avenue. And I'm sure we can come up with like another 10 really interesting places that we would all bike to together.
Yeah, the Spring Mansion, maybe. And
There you go.
this guy is, he's Mark, it's Mark Bullwinkle. Right?
No,
Not Mark
oh,
Bullwinkle, Mark
Olivier.
Mark Olivier, sorry.
Bullwinkle is
Yeah.
another.
Yeah,
Another
another
architect,
person.
another sculptor.
Yeah, and this is on Calusa, kind of the south end of Calusa, and the whole yard is full of these sculptures, and some of the neighbors' yards.
It's kind of like
Yeah.
it's spread to other yards. I love it. I just love it. So let's wrap this up. We want to talk about the Path Wanderers, but I'll just ask you one last question. Like, what are your favorite sources of information? Where do you, what do you think of the Berkeley History Room at the Central Library? What are your favorite places to go for research about this stuff?
Well, I mean, I have some books that I acquired. Berkeley Architectural Heritage Association has a couple of good things. They have their own little book of walking tours that was useful, that emphasized pretty much just architecture. And they have a book called Berkeley Landmarks. I was actually on the Landmark Preservation Commission for 8 years. And there are also a number of good books about Berkeley. There's the Berkeley Rocks book by Jonathan Chester. There's well, there's a book, it's not just Berkeley, there's a book called The Field Guide to American Houses. There's field guides to like birds and field guides to plant. Well, this is a field guide to houses that tells you all different kinds of houses. And that was a great resource. Plus
Berkeley Landmarks.
Oh, yeah. Janet pointed out to me that in the Berkeley High School theater lobby, there's a high school Hall of Fame. So I went through that and put down all the people when they graduate, and I went back. Some before there were telephone books, there were these street directories, and then some of the telephone books. After the 70s, you couldn't use telephone books anymore because nobody wanted to listen to their addresses. But so there's just so many things like that you could use as research. There's even a book called Berkeley Historical Society puts out this book called Berkeley, the quick index to the origin of Berkeley's names, that tells you where the names for the streets and all the neighborhoods and paths and a lot of paths.
I definitely want to check that book out. I love stuff like that. In fact, we were talking about on Yosemite Avenue, there's a guy, and it's in your book, who was the landscape engineer for Yosemite National Park in the early 20th century and built like a really beautiful house up there. So
On Yosemite.
Yeah, Mark Daniels.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He laid out Bel Air and what's the Sea Cliff and Forest Hill in San Francisco and so on.
Yeah. So this book, Berkeley, A City in History, is really a very readable book by Charles Wallenberg. And then there's also one of these, the Arcadia Publishing books about Berkeley that has a lot of good information. And Berkeley Historical Society and Berkeley Architectural Heritage Association were primary sources.
So you guys have taken all this great information and, in my opinion, synthesized it into this book, Berkeley Walks, which I just feel is like best in class. I just really have enjoyed working through your book. I did not do it in its entirety, so I still have a lot of other places I want to cover. But it's not something you want to do. You want to like take your time and go through these places and really appreciate what you're seeing in these neighborhoods. So congratulations on Berkeley Walks.
I found something very interesting today. There's a street I always walked from one direction on one part of Santa Barbara. When I walked the other direction from what I normally did, I saw a couple of houses I didn't see before, because walking one direction, there's this hedge. and you don't actually look back like that to see it. But when I was walking the other direction, oh, there's this interesting house there I've never noticed before. So it's amazing what'll happen if you walk down the street the opposite direction from the way you always do it.
I get the sense you both would be great people to walk around with. I would love to just walk with you on some of these streets and say, well, what about, is this one good enough to make the book? You find so many interesting things. And so let's move on to the Berkeley Path Wanderers, because we want to talk about that. And this is the Path Wanderers map. But the Berkeley Path Wanderers are now 25 years old. And I guess not everyone in the audience is going to know who they are. So Janet, tell us, who are the Berkeley Path Wanderers and what's its mission?
So Path Wanderers was formed in 1998 by 4 forward-thinking Berkeley women. A few of them are in there. That's Ruth Armstrong, Eleanor Hall Gibson, Pat DeVito, and they're sitting on the right side next to Jay Cross. So those 3 women are the founders. And then there's Jackie Ensign, who I think you have a picture of, and there's Charlie Bowen actually on the left. And yeah, on the left there. Yeah.
Before I heard great.
Yeah. And so they Ruth Armstrong just put up a sign in the North Berkeley branch of the library asking if people were interested in a path group. And they got like 50 or 60 people at their first meeting. And this is Jackie Ensign, also one of the founders. She's 91. She grew up on Shattuck, Upper Shattuck. And she's still living in that house that she was raised, was her parents' house. And they just took it from there. One of the first things they did was map out the paths and publish a map. They actually got a seed grant from Betty Olds, who was the council member at the time. And now this is the 10th edition of the map. And it really is, it just came out a few months ago. And it really is the best map of Berkeley, in my opinion.
Also,
Yeah,
we have the path that's named after Jackie Ensign right here.
Yeah, so last year we were able to rename 4 paths for the 4 founders. Some of them are not built. One of them is downtown. It's what's the street it's on? It's Berkeley Way, up near the campus. That's where the Eleanor Hall Gibson path is. And so the main things that Path Wanderers began doing is building new paths. First of all, they do maintenance, like that's a key function. We've had hundreds of work parties to weed the paths, and that's all citizen. It's 100% volunteer, and you're going to see pictures of our awesome volunteers here. And then the other thing the Path Wanderers has done is reclaim the public rights of way for the public by building new paths. So this path, I'm not sure which one it is, but you see the wood steps. That means that there was a public right of way that hadn't been built, and Path Wanderers has a team of all volunteer team of path builders that has been building paths, and they've built 38 new paths in the hills over the years. And they're actually, they go out and they fix paths, and we also have a very close working relationship with the city of Berkeley Public Works Department. The city is spending about $50,000 a year on paths. And so we help them decide, prioritize how to spend that money. And when we're just advocates for the paths. Plus we lead a lot of walks. We have at least 2 walks every month. They're all free. And we just love getting people out on the paths and beyond, and just really enjoying walking in Berkeley.
Yeah. By the way, this is a friend of mine, John Ford, who I've known for a long time, and I'm part of his hiking group. He's on the board of the Path Wanderers, so kind of cool. He also does these work parties
and he's head of the walking tour.
The walking committee. He's the walks coordinator.
The president.
He loves walking, and he loves walking uphill. He does one of these sawtooth hikes where he goes up, like he'll go up one of these stairway walks and then immediately go back down and then go up another one and come down. And it's a really good workout.
We're doing, right for our 25th anniversary year, we're doing a 6-walk series of every path in Berkeley. And there's sort of this apocryphal story. There were 2 teenagers, who Jacob and Aviva, who went out on one day when they were 11 and 12 years old, and they walked every path in Berkeley in one day. It's about 30 miles. And Jacob ended up joining the board. He was the youngest board member during high school. And but we did it in 6 days. And actually, if you go on our website, we have the cue sheets for those walks. And we're actually the last walk is this weekend. And the people who walked every path get a button.
That's upside down.
So, yeah,
Right side up.
I walked every path in Berkeley.
I want one of those buttons.
You
We've
do.
had this thing, both the Bay Trail and the Ridge Trail, we've had this thing circumnavigation, and I did circumnavigate the Bay Trail. I've done it a couple times on a bicycle, so I don't think it's quite the same as doing it on foot. I know the people who've done it on foot feel like that's a more significant achievement, and I tip my hat to them. But that's very cool that you guys are doing that. This is, by the way, this is showing kind of the results of your work parties where, these paths really need maintenance and the city can't really afford to be doing that. So you have these work parties that sweep them up, make sure the vegetation isn't overrunning them,
Mhm.
and it makes them a lot safer to use.
Yeah,
There's 2 of them coming up next week, I think. Two
Yeah,
parties.
I should say that the paths, not only are they wonderful for recreation and they're charming and everything, they're also really important for evacuation purposes. And we've been working with the fire department, and they're very interested in helping people understand what their fastest, easiest way for them to get out of the hills in the case of a fire. And so they're not just for fun, they're really important for getting people down the hill when there's a fast moving fire or other emergency.
Yeah, I completely agree. And anyone who knows the topology of Berkeley, these charming streets that follow the contour lines of the hills also make it hard for people to drive out of the hills in the event of a wildfire emergency. And so it's an argument we've been making in Kensington that we really need our paths for egress.
Mhm.
And I do want to say, like, the Berkeley Path Wanderers have been fantastic partners to us in Kensington. You've been helping us organize. Our paths are not actually publicly owned. They're in this kind of quasi-public, like they're used by the public, and they're not privately owned either, but we need to get them formally owned and a maintenance plan. So we're really grateful to the Path Wanderers for helping us. What are some of the things you guys are hoping to accomplish in the future? What are the next 25 years going to mean for the Berkeley Path Wanderers?
Can I take that, Bob?
Sure, go ahead.
So we did, one of the things I did as president, and in their great wisdom, you can only serve 2 terms in a row on the Path Wanderers board. So there's a lot of turnover and people don't get burned out. And anyway, so one of the things I did before Berkeley was looking at a bond measure, Measure L, a big infrastructure bond. I worked with the Public Works Department and the board to put together a budget for all the things that the paths need. We need handrails. We desperately need handrails on so many paths. There's more than 50 paths that need handrails, and handrails cost between $15,000 and $25,000 each, depending on how long they are and how complicated they are. We need to fix the crumbling concrete steps. They're 100 years old and a lot of them are falling apart. We'd like to see lighting and wayfinding and other safety measures like crosswalks, lighted crosswalks. So because there's a lot of paths that cross over streets, and we could make it a lot safer for people to do that and to cross the streets. So it all, when we added it all up with Public Works, it was $5 million. So I personally feel like, in the larger scheme of infrastructure needs, it's not an overwhelming number, but, it's not, the city isn't just going to give us 5 million, dedicate $5 million to the paths. So that's kind of where I see the Path Wanderers headed, just really working toward raising the money and turning the paths into a really world-class network.
Yeah, I think the paths are one of the reasons we would make the argument that everyone needs to come walk around Berkeley. It's a great place. In these paths, I think Bob, what was the original purpose? Like, what was the history of these paths? Why were they created?
Well, one of the things from what I read, and there are different versions on the story, is that some of them were put in by the developers, and again, the city got the right of way because it was a way for people to get to the streetcar lines, because they were streetcar lines that ran up Euclid, Spruce, Arlington, and so on. Another thing was that somebody noted that a lot of the paths follow main sewer lines downhill. So it may have been partly access to those main sewer lines. And I know people talk about it like now, but maybe they were also talking then about whether the paths provided way to escape. But I don't know if they were thinking that, 100 years ago, but that may have been another early factor as well.
There was also access to the streetcar lines.
That's why I said.
Oh, did you say that? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we think like in Kensington, a lot of them take you right to the Arlington, where there was a streetcar line that went down to originally to the ferry that went over to San Francisco. And I live off of Calusa Avenue, which never got a streetcar line, but I saw a map where there had been one that was planned, and they said it would be 30 minutes to get from the Calusa Circle to downtown San Francisco, including the ferry ride. So it was really fast.
Wow.
There was a commuter train that ran over Calusa. It came up for Hopkins and went over Calusa, but it stopped at Solano Avenue.
Yep, we didn't get it all the way
Didn't get all the way to Calusa Circle. Yeah.
So congratulations on 25 years of the Berkeley Path Wanderers. I do want to get to our contest. So let me skip ahead here. And we're gonna go to one of your pictures and ask people to identify something. And the winner will get the Bay Trail map cards or the Ridge Trail guidebook. And Serena Seaton is the one who provides these the Bay Trail map cards. And I always tell her she gets to have a Serena selection every month. So she's chosen Jack London State Historic Park in Sonoma County. Great choice, because I've been doing a lot more up in Sonoma. I'm actually going to have some art programs relating to the Sonoma Valley Museum of Art, which is in the town of Sonoma. And we just did one about a wine property that has an amazing sculpture garden. So very, very cool. But here's, you have a choice between this Ridge Trail guide or the Bay Trail map cards. It's a very difficult choice you have to make, but we're going to show you a photograph of a very old tree. And in chat, whoever types this in first, what type of tree is this? So go ahead and take a guess. We're not going to give you, it's not multiple choice. Let's see if anybody can guess what kind of tree this is. I'm looking in chat, seeing if we got any guesses out there. I see Buckeye. Bob?
Buckeye is right.
Buckeye is right. So it was Mark Wegner, I think, chose for. So Mark, I will get in touch with you and ask you whether, in fact, if you want to tell me in chat whether you want the Bay Trail map cards or the Ridge Trail guidebook. Lee, your feelings won't be hurt if they choose the Ridge Trail guidebook, right?
Right.
No, I'm just amazed that they were able to pick out this tree. I would have said old tree.
Yeah, I don't really. And then Paco was really hot on your heels, Mark. So Paco, I think I'm going to declare both Mark and Paco to be winners. So I'll have both of you get in touch and let me know which you prefer, the Bay Trail map cards or the Ridge Trail guidebook.
This one was planned in 1885. It's at the faculty glade on the UC campus near the faculty club. And it's hard, the trunk looks like it's hardly still there, but this tree is thriving.
Amazing. It's funny. I've been reading the book American Prometheus about Robert Oppenheimer. I want to read the book before I see the film, and it talks a lot about Berkeley, and it talks. He I think at one point was sleeping in the faculty club, and he lived in Berkeley on.
But then he lived in Kensington.
And then he lived in Kensington, and one of the pivotal events of the book takes place at Eagle Hill, which is just up the hill from where I live. So very, very interesting. And I have to also say, Bob and Janet, that going on the tour of the Berkeley campus really kind of set me up to appreciate that book also, because of course a lot of the things he was doing right before the war were on the Berkeley campus. So much great history.
Yeah, there's some good exterior shots of the campus in the movie, and they seem to mostly include the Campanile. They figured out like,
yeah,
get it into every shot of Berkeley.
So all roads lead to Berkeley, I think is what we've learned on this program. Bob, Janet, thank you so much for being guests, and also for all the work you put into this great book. Can't recommend it highly enough. If you go to that webpage that I shared with you, that's one way to get the book. Maybe I'll pull up your one more shot at the screen that has your web pages.
Thank you. It's berkeleywalks.com.
So berkeleywalks.com. And then if you've got recommendations of places to buy the book, and if they get in touch with you, you guys are happy to sign the book. You're also going to be doing an event.
We're happy to do direct sales too.
And you've got some.
We make more money. We make more money that way.
Than with royalties.
Yeah.
We can mail them or deliver them if they're not too far away.
Yeah.
And when the three of us are going to do an event at Pegasus Books on September 7th. That's on Solano Avenue. What time is that event, Janet?
I think it's at 7, but we have to confirm. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it's at 7. Yeah, so Rodney is going to interview us on stage or at a panel at Pegasus.
Hopefully won't ask any questions that are too difficult.
Well, I hope I didn't tonight. You guys are full of great information. I really enjoyed doing this show. We always end with happy trails. So let me kick that off. And then we are gonna, we would love to do Q&A with Bob and Janet right afterwards.
Thank you so much, Rodney.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Who cares about the clouds if we're together? Just sing a song and bring the sunny weather. Happy trails to you until we meet again. Until we meet again.
And here are some thank yous. Midnight Kitchen gave us the music that we use with our slideshow. I should really thank you, Bob, for all those great photographs. Most of the photographs that I've shown tonight, particularly places in Berkeley, are from the book. So thanks for that. Midnight Kitchen is going to be playing on, they've already played the Farmers Market, but they're going to be playing on August 25th at Rigger's Loft. Highly recommend that. They're a great group. And now we're going to do Q&A. And this is when I let you guys unmute if you would like. So give me a second to do that so you can ask questions. There we go. So you should be able to unmute. Anybody, we could ask you to raise hands, or you could just jump in and ask a question. Or
You know
can
what, Rodney? Excuse me, I'm back.
Paco, you're back. It's so great to have you.
Yeah.
What did you think of the show, Paco?
This is very, very brilliant.
Are you going to come to Berkeley and do some of these walks?
Oh no, not in person too.
You want to do it virtually. You know,
Yes.
Bob and Janet have, I think I found on YouTube or somewhere, there's some virtual tours that you guys recorded during the pandemic. I think I saw that.
Yeah, where are those, Bob?
Maybe it's on the
Well,
Path
on YouTube,
Wanderers website.
there's also a couple
Yeah.
of things I did with the guy who, who filmed me doing it. One was on palm trees, I think, in Berkeley. And there was another one that was architecturally related. Yeah. So, but I don't know if maybe at the Berkeley Historical website, we did a couple with them. I don't know
Yep.
if they have access to one of those filming of
Yeah.
the.
I'll look for some links and
virtual
maybe
tours.
put them on. I can put them on the web page. I
That would
see.
help us.
I see some friends who live in Berkeley have their hand raised. So Mike and Fran, go ahead, unmute.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for a great program. And we wanted to say we were on one of your walks near Walnut Square, and we passed this house that's a scent museum.
Ah,
Do you know that one?
A scent museum? Like it
With
costs
all the
1 cent?
bottles?
Does it cost 1 cent to get in, or what do you?
No,
what's it-
nose scent, SC. And there were all these bottles, and we were looking, and the people came out and they let us into their little museum. It normally costs money just for a few minutes. And we told them that they were in your book, and they didn't even know that.
oh, that's cool.
And yeah,
The scent
went-
museum is downtown Berkeley, or where is it?
No, it's in,
no, near North, like right off of Shattuck and Vine. I think Walnut Street. No, was it Walnut Street?
I don't
well,
remember.
it's-
But right near Walnut Square.
Wow, that's cool. I didn't. This is the thing about this book is it just reveals. I thought I knew plenty about Berkeley, and it's just really opened my eyes to lots of new wonderful things.
We've had a bunch of experiences where we've been taking people on a walk and we'll stop in front of a house and we're talking about it. And then the people come out and they say, we think they're going to be annoyed with us, but then they're like, do you guys want to see it? And they invite everybody in. It's happened a bunch, more than a handful of times.
Right.
Yeah, and another
Yeah.
time we were up in the hills and these people came home. We said, your house is in this book. We had the book, and they were like, whoa, we didn't know that. And they were really excited too. So
ah,
yeah, thank you guys.
Oh, thank you.
thank you.
It is fun.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a scavenger hunt, walking around with this book and finding these places. And like these people, that house that we were talking about this before the show started. On the cover of the book is this house with all these funky like little sculptures on it. And I guess it was next to an important like collective.
Yeah.
The Serpent's Eye Collective. Am I getting that right, Bob?
The house next door has like it's one of those round entryways. It's like a circle. Yeah, it's on McKinley Street. That's in the McGee Spalding
Yes.
walk. And it's
Yeah.
also across the street from the house that Whoopi Goldberg owned for a long time.
Where
Yeah,
her
McKinley
mother
my
lived, I think.
compound.
Great.
I think her mother lived in the house. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. I'm sorry, I was quick looking through the chat to see if there were any questions somebody had. Okay.
Do we have questions in the chat? It's
Oh,
hard.
somebody said Eugene Soy gave a tour of the tardigrade or fish house after he built it for his parents.
I would love to be. I want to just know what's the climate like in there? Does it get hot? Is it cold? What's it like?
Apparently it's built to sort of like, it's very well insulated, so it doesn't get too hot or cold. That's my understanding. That's what I'd read about it.
And I hope he really thought about earthquakes, because that you got to wonder if that kind of a structure is ideal for seismic activity. Other questions out there? Anybody else want to jump in with a question or a comment? Maybe a favorite place in Berkeley you want to talk about? Well, if not, then I will thank you all for tuning in. It's been a lot of fun for me working with you, Bob and Janet, on this show. I'm not done with you guys. I'm looking forward to this Pegasus event. And Janet, you and I are going to talk about putting together a bike ride And I'm thinking, well, we'll find a date sometime very soon. But
Oh, by the way, the next program is the art viewing adventures, right?
well, this is true. I've got a program on August 14th. We'll be talking about art then. So I've got lots more of these virtual programs, but the next art viewing adventure program, the next Bay Area Trails confidential program is going to be, I believe, September 6th. So you'll be seeing more about that in my Friday emails.
Oh,
And also
somebody,
Richie's program, actually.
Richie Unterberger, this is funny. So Bob and Janet, you write a lot about rock parks and geological formations in Berkeley. A good friend of mine, Richie Unterberger, he's a rock historian, but it's a different kind of rock. He's an expert on 1960s and 70s in really the whole history of rock music. He teaches classes about the Beatles, Rolling Stones. He's writing a book about the Velvet Underground.
oh, cool.
Yeah.
Somebody posted a comment. We didn't mention where Hillary Clinton and it was actually Hillary Rodham and Bill Clinton, because they, when they were both at Yale Law School, they came out to Berkeley for a summer. I think it was 71.
71 or 2. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and there's it was on Derby Street near College, where they lived in the Elmwood, where they lived that summer.
Probably not too far from Pauline Kael.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not too
on
far.
on the same Elmwood walk in the book. Yeah, it is mentioned in the book.
So yeah, the book, it's just like so many in great details. So I'm going to wrap this up. Thanks, everybody. Thank you in particular, Janet and Bob, and also Lee Huo, my co-host. And look forward to seeing you guys again next month for another great Bay Area Trails Confidential program.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Rodney.
everyone.
We'll be in touch.
Have a great evening.
We'll be in touch to plan the Pegasus event.
Looking forward to it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.